The story of the Mauryan Empire begins not in a palace, but in the dust and chaos of a fractured India, a land torn apart by rival kingdoms, constant wars, and foreign invaders. It was around 322 BCE when a young, ambitious man named Chandragupta Maurya decided that enough was enough. What began as the dream of one man soon became one of the greatest empires in ancient history. The Mauryan Empire, a force so vast and organized that it rivaled the might of Rome and Persia. But what made this empire so powerful? How did it rise from the ashes of disunity to rule almost the entire Indian subcontinent? It all began with vision and with a man whose intellect burned brighter than any weapon, Chanakya, also known as Kautilya. Chanakya was a teacher, philosopher, and master strategist who had seen the weakness of India firsthand. He watched small kings fight petty wars while foreign forces like the Greeks, under Alexander the Great, invaded their lands. He knew that India could never stand strong divided. So he sought a ruler capable of uniting it, and he found that man in Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta was young, fearless, and full of fire. Under Chanakya's guidance, he trained not only in the art of war, but in the art of statecraft. Together, they plotted something extraordinary, the creation of a single, unified Indian empire. Their first target was the Nanda dynasty of Magadha, one of the richest and most corrupt kingdoms of the time. It was said that the Nandas had so much gold that their treasury could not be emptied in generations, but wealth had made them arrogant. The people hated their rule, and in that resentment Chanakya saw opportunity. Through careful planning, deception, and strategic alliances, Chandragupta defeated the mighty Nandas. When he ascended the throne, a new era began. The Mauryan Empire was born. From there, the empire expanded rapidly. Chandragupta's forces marched across northern India, conquering one kingdom after another. He built a massive army, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, tens of thousands of cavalry, and thousands of war elephants that thundered across battlefields like living tanks. The Mauryan military was unlike anything the region had ever seen, disciplined, strategic, and unstoppable. But it wasn't brute strength alone that made the Mauryan Empire powerful. It was its intelligence, a complex and efficient system of governance that stretched from the Himalayas to the southern plains. Chanakya, who served as the chief advisor, designed the empire's political system. His ideas were recorded in the Arthashastra, an ancient text that still fascinates historians today. It described everything from taxation and espionage to agriculture and diplomacy. According to Chanakya, a ruler's power depended on information, so he built one of the world's earliest spy networks. Agents disguised as monks, merchants, and even beggars collected intelligence from every corner of the empire. The Mauryan capital, Pataliputra, now modern-day Patna, was a marvel of organization and architecture. Greek ambassador Megasthenes, who visited the court, described it as a city surrounded by massive wooden walls, 570 towers, and 64 gates. Inside, streets were wide and orderly, and the administration ran like clockwork. After Chandragupta came his son Binjusara, who expanded the empire further south. But it was his grandson, Ashoka the Great, who turned the Mauryan Empire into a legend. Ashoka began his rule like a conqueror. His armies stretched the empire to its peak, from Afghanistan to Bengal, and deep into the southern tip of India. But one battle changed everything: the Battle of Kalinga. The war was fierce and brutal. Over 100,000 people were said to have been killed. The rivers ran red with blood, and when Ashoka walked through the battlefield, seeing the dead, the wounded, and the suffering, something broke inside him. The man who had once ruled with an iron fist suddenly turned to peace. Ashoka embraced Buddhism, renouncing violence and dedicating himself to the welfare of his people. He sent missionaries across Asia, to Sri Lanka, Nepal, and as far as Greece, spreading the message of compassion, tolerance, and nonviolence. Under Ashoka, the Mauryan Empire became not just powerful in might, but in spirit. Roads and trade routes were built, connecting distant regions and boosting commerce. Hospitals, universities, and rest houses were established. Laws were carved into stone pillars. The famous Ashokan edicts, reminding everyone, from peasants to nobles, of the moral duty of rulers and citizens alike. The Mauryan administration was a masterpiece of organization. Provinces were divided into smaller units, each governed by officials who reported directly to the emperor. Taxes were collected fairly, trade flourished, and justice was swift. Even spies had spies to ensure that corruption never took root. Foreign travelers marveled at the efficiency of the system. The Greeks and Persians, known for their own powerful empires, compared the Mauryas to themselves. Some even said the Mauryan Empire was richer and better managed than the great Persian Empire of Cyrus or the Greek states of Alexander. But like all great empires, the Mauryan dynasty too began to fade after Ashoka's death. Without his leadership, corruption returned, local governors grew ambitious, and the vast empire began to fracture. By the 2nd century BCE, it had disintegrated into smaller kingdoms. Yet, its legacy never disappeared. The Mauryan Empire had done what no one before had achieved, united most of India under one rule. It had built systems of governance and administration that would influence the subcontinent for centuries. And it had proven that power could come not just from armies and gold, but from vision, strategy, and moral strength. So what made the Mauryan Empire so powerful? It was not just its soldiers, or its spies, or its wealth. It was its balance, the perfect harmony of military might, political intelligence, and moral leadership. It was the dream of a teacher and the courage of a student who dared to think of one India, united under one rule. From the ashes of disunity, the Mauryan Empire rose like a giant, and for a shining moment in history, it stood as one of the most advanced and powerful civilizations the world had ever known.